Kuria, MP, for consideration by the House Business Committee. The motion, which was considered by the House Business Committee last week, seeks to move the House to establish an ad hoc committee on public debt to be known as the Select Committee on the Public Debt Situation in Kenya. In addition, the motion proposes that the mandate of the ad hoc select committee includes the following. A, to investigate and inquire into the borrowing trends of the government of the Republic of Kenya in the past 20 years. B, to investigate and inquire into the processes, terms, and status of the government of Kenya's past and current domestic and external debts. C, to study and inquire into the government of Kenya's past and current revenue collection, taxation measures, and public expenditure. D, to inquire into the effects of the public debt to the economy, to the current and future generations. And E, to report and make recommendations on possible alternatives, mitigation measures, and any other related proposals within 90 days. Honourable members, as is a practice, when a member submits a notice of motion seeking the establishment of an ad hoc select committee, it is a requirement that the membership of the select committee is provided. In this regard, the Honourable Moses Kuria has proposed that the membership of the select committee comprises the following. 1, the Honourable Moses Kuria MP chairperson. 2, the Honourable David Boni MP. 3, the Honourable Samuel Atandi MP. 4, the Honourable John Sakwa Bunyasi MP. 5, the Honourable Memusi Kanchori MP. 6, the Honourable Abdulswamad Sharif Nasir MP. 7, the Honourable Kadhuri Murungi MP. 8, the Honourable Shakir Shabil MP. 9, the Honourable Dr. Chrysanthus Wamalwa MP. 10, the Honourable Caleb Kostani MP. 11, the Honourable Puritan Girishi MP. 12, the Honourable Beatrice Adagala MP. 13, the Honourable Rosa Buyu MP. 14, the Honourable Soipan Tuya MP. 15, the Honourable Jessica Mbalu MP. Honourable members, excuse me. Honourable members, for a select committee to be set up to inquire into any matter, it would be expected that the matters proposed to be considered either cannot be adequately addressed by the existing committees, or the matters are cross-cutting, making it impossible to be considered by a specific committee, or the matters are beyond the mandate of the existing committees. Honourable members, noting the request and the mandate of the proposed ad hoc select committee against the mandate of other existing committees, I have declined to approve the notice of motion on the following grounds. 1, conflicts with the mandate of existing committees. The matters which the motion intends to be addressed by the proposed ad hoc select committee fall squarely under the mandate of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. For clarity, under Standing Order 216, run together with the second schedule to the Standing Orders, which provides for the mandate of departmental committees, the subjects that are dealt with by the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning include public finance, monetary policies, public debt, financial institutions, excluding those in securities exchange, investment and divestiture policies, pricing policies, banking, insurance, population, revenue policies, including taxation, national planning, and development. In this regard, the House Business Committee is of the view that the matters listed in the proposed notice of motion perfectly fall within the mandate of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. And 2, conflict with Standing Order number 86. This provision of the Standing Orders prohibits any member from referring to substance of any matter that is before a committee of the House. Members will recall that since commencement of this Parliament, the National Treasury has always submitted statutory reports and statistics on the status of the loans contracted or guaranteed by the national government, the national debt management strategies, and the related reports. These matters are still pending before the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, and some before the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Indeed, the member for Gatundu South is a member of the latter committee. Honourable members, having said that, I now direct the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning to expedite its examination of the public debt-related documents that have been submitted to this House. These documents include the following. 1. Report to Parliament on all new loans contracted by government from 1st February 2017 to 30th June 2017. 2. Report on all new loans contracted by Government of Kenya from 1st July to 31st of October 2017. 3. Report to Parliament on all new loans contracted by Government of Kenya from 1st November 2017 to 28th February 2018. 4. Report to Parliament on all new loans contracted by the Government of Kenya from 1st July 2018 to 31st December 2018. 5. Report to Parliament on all new loans contracted by Government of Kenya from 1st January 2019 to 30th April 2019. 6. Report to Parliament on all new loans contracted by Government of Kenya from 1st May 2019 to 1st August 2019. 7. The 2018-2019 estimates of revenue, grants, and loans of the government for the year ending 30th June 2019. 8. The 2019 medium-term debt management strategy. 9. The 2019-2020 estimates of revenue, grants, and loans of the government for the year ending 30th June 2020. And 10. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of government investments and public enterprises, in bracket statement of outstanding loans for the year ended 30th June 2018. Honourable members, the committee is expected to submit its report to the House early next session. The House and the member are accordingly guided. I thank you, honourable members. Yes, Leader of Majority.
Speaker, thank you very much for that communication. And Mr. Speaker, along that line, as we, inshallah, approach the new session, Speaker, there are institutions of government in this country who are answerable to the National Assembly. National Assembly, not even the Senate. And they make quarterly reports. One of them is the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, the EACC, the Auditor General, and even the Control of Budget, and even the judiciary, on the status of the judiciary. Speaker, I think going forward you need to give direction that the respective committees must look at those reports and bring a report tabled and debated in this House. It will not make sense if every day we table the quarter report of the EACC and the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee don't give us a report. That we discuss the annual report is a constitutional provision, just like the way, the state of the nation addressed by the President. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, today you have made it very clear that the National Treasury has been giving to this House quarterly on the debt management strategy, on the loans they have acquired, and that's a function of the Finance Committee. And I really ask Honorable Moses Kuria, now he has an opportunity to appear before the committee and also have enough time to campaign for his presidential ambition. I think select committees are very complicated. You lose a lot of time. Now the Speaker has saved you. I think you need to go and popularize your candidature going forward, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, I think, honourable members, if you look at the Constitution, and we always get reports from the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary. And those reports are referred to the relevant committees mandated to deal with them because they oversight them. It would be useful that those committees also, after studying those reports, do also report to the House what they have found from those reports. They are not meant to be kept in the shelves. So indeed, as we move forward, and indeed the leader majority, as you had indicated earlier, even cabinet secretaries will be required to comply with this directive. They are required under the Constitution to also submit reports to this House about the functions of their ministries. So we will want to see every committee get list of those reports, the reports that have been referred to them, and also acting on them, so that we don't have this unusual penchant for the setting up of ad hoc committees. I'm mindful that the member for Soy has just approached me and complained that I have now denied him a job that he was being given by the member for Katundu South. And I can see the Honorable Atandi also is anxious to comment that he has also lost a job, but I'm sure you are in other committees. And I suspect that the Honorable Atandi is in the Finance Committee. And therefore the matter is actually, it's very safe. These matters for which the Honorable Kuria wanted you to go and spend the time when your committee can still deal with them, because you'd have to leave that other committee to go and sit in this other one. So instead of doing that, the Honorable Atandi, you will be gainfully employed within the Finance and Planning Committee. I don't think whether there is an issue here, Honorable Atandi.
Honorable Speaker, I wanted to agree with your ruling because the Honorable Moses Kuria mentioned my name, and in fact added my name in his request for this ad hoc committee without consulting me, Mr. Speaker. And I wanted to complain that, Honorable Speaker, I think it would be important for anybody who wants to form a committee to engage the membership first before they're included. But having said that, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Moses Kuria is a member who is not known to participate actively in the chambers. And I wanted to say, Mr. Honorable Speaker, that this parliament should not be used for people who just want to be activists. You know, I know Moses Kuria is a former banker like myself, Honorable Speaker, but I know that he transacts his businesses in funerals, local Kikuyu radio stations, and in other forums, in TV and in rallies. So the matters that he has raised, as you have ruled, squarely falls within the mandate of our committee. The Finance and National Planning Committee, Mr. Speaker, is the most active and most active committee of this House. And the issues that he has raised concerning debt are issues that we continue to transact. In fact, debt strategy paper of the last financial year is with us, and we are going through it. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for your ruling. I want to associate myself with the activities of Moses Kuria, of including my name in some of these endeavors to politicize and to publicize the activities of Tanga Tanga and ETC. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Mandela South, you have an intervention.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I wanted a direction on not this issue, but direction on a matter that was directed to my committee last week.
But we are not yet there.
Okay.
Honorable Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with your direction, and indeed, as requested by the Leader of Majority, that it is the business of us committees to, when we receive these reports, to come back to the House with our reports. Mr. Speaker, I want to confirm to the House that my committee already has been able to table a report on the judiciary annual reports for 2016-17 and 17-18. We are in the process of doing the one for EACC and the one for DPP. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with you. And this will help this House to understand operation of these institutions and even understand where we need to strengthen them. So I really want to agree and request our colleagues, it is important we do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honorable Kioni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to agree and support what you have said, Mr. Speaker, the direction that you have given. And note that, Mr. Speaker, we have, there is a habit that seems to be forming within members where we fail to be familiar with the rules of this House and even the workings of the House. And what we are now doing is going to the radio stations and everywhere else, issuing some very sensational statements. Mr. Speaker, it's unbelievable that a member can stand in a public platform out there in the countryside and say that this House is made up of wakoras. And you see, this looking for populism when you are tarnishing the image of this House does not help this country. Mr. Speaker, I say this because in some of the social places you go to, and this comes because of this kind of approaches, we are now told that we cannot be trusted with any work that we should do as members of Parliament for the reason that you can be bought with 10,000 shillings, for the reason that you would disappear into the toilets. These are statements that were issued by members on the floor of this House and amplified out there in public spaces. And I think, Mr. Speaker, it's important, if there are members who feel so inadequate to have been elected, there are ways of giving in and going elsewhere, where you think you can get your balance and your relevance. But putting us in a basket and saying that you can be bought with 10,000 shillings, when things are being debated, you are in the toilet, it actually speaks volumes of you who is saying that, not of others. And I think it is important that those who have not woken up to the law that they were given, or those who are not embarrassed enough, why did you offer yourself to be elected if you think you are Mkora? If you are worth 10,000 shillings, why the hell did you bother to come to Parliament? You can get 10,000 shillings elsewhere. And if it is a toilet you are looking for, there are public toilets out there where people can go and do the canvassing and the rest. Mr. Speaker, I say this because these kind of populist things, you find it in you find ourselves in the radio, people talking of things that are properly being handled by committees in a very casual manner and in a manner that actually demeans the status of this House. And I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that ruling, because it's a wake-up call. Don't just light something that you heard people say in a bar and bring it to the Speaker to act on it. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, I didn't want this to become a debate, so that we can get into serious business, because there's a lot of work that is there. Honourable Olagoluoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue that the House is talking about seems to go towards where Honourable Kioni is taking it, and I think that's the right way, because members of this House, in my view, are sinking the lowest I've ever seen in Parliament. I've never seen members of Parliament going out there and insulting themselves and other colleagues outside Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, I think it's very embarrassing for all of us to talk so carelessly outside. But I think the time has come now for the House leadership, and Honorable Duale is not listening. The time has come to now have Honorable Duale's attention. The Speaker was saying that the time has come for the House leadership now to consider seriously having a kamukunji for us to educate ourselves on what we should say about each other outside and what it means all of us generally without us knowing. For me, being a ranking member of this House, I feel hurt and embarrassed when I see colleagues on the media talking so badly about ourselves and themselves. So I think let us mature up, members of this House, and see how best we can handle issues, even if we differ on some of the issues we discuss here. We may differ on issues on the floor of Parliament, But I think we all deserve to respect each other, inside and outside the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Nyamai. Do you have an intervention?
Yeah, I was being strategic so that I can respond to the statements that had been sought, because I was given
okay.
today as the last day.
Okay, very well.
But Honorable Speaker, I'm also very happy about the ruling that you have given, because it is giving legitimacy to the work that is being done by committees. So I would like to say that I also appreciate the ruling.
Well, of course, I think it has been suggested by the Honorable John Olagwaluoch. I think the House Business Committee should consider what the Honorable Olagwaluoch has just said when we retreat later this evening, when the House rises. I think that's a matter that we need to all sit and agree, possibly in a Kamukunji, because, honourable members, the trend that is beginning to take shape now that we are almost at the tail end of this session, with another 2 months out there, I don't know whether when you come back here you will have any faces. You may have smeared yourself so much that you may need some to be taken to some factories for some cleansing. So I think there may be need for the House Business Committee this evening to seriously consider what has been suggested by the Honorable Olagwaluoch. But we'll leave it at that point. I think we still have some time when we see whether we can have as many of you present so that people can discuss matters in-house. Go to the next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable Chair of the NGCDF, or the Vice Chair. Yes, the Vice Chair.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that pursuant to the provisions of Section 43, subsection 4 and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015, and paragraph 5, 2 and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approves the list of nominees for the appointments of the Baringo South Constituency Committee for the National Government Constituency Development Fund, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019 as follows. 1, Samuel Kiprotich Bungei, male adult representative. Geoffrey Kebut Koskei, male youth representative. Zakia Jemuge Kiptusang, female youth representative. Helen Chepto, female adult representative. Christine Chepkemoy Kandie, representative of persons living with disability. Eunice Takok Kiprotich, nominee of the constituency office, female. Justice Kiprono Tebi, nominee of the constituency office, male. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Chairman, Departmental Committee on Finance and Planning.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning in its report on the vetting of the nominee for approval as a representative of the Parliamentary Service Commission to the Salaries and Remuneration Commission laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 252B and Section 711 of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission Act, this House approves the appointment of Honorable Amina Abdallah as a representative of the Parliamentary Service Commission to the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed with the other one.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion.
Well, members, the process of the committee of the whole house was completed, and what remained was the question to be put for agreement. I therefore put the question, which is that this house to agree with the report of the committee of the whole house on its consideration of the Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2019. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2019 be now read a third time. I request the Chair of Finance Committee, Honorable Joseph Limo, to second.
Honorable Limo.
Mr. Speaker, I second.
I therefore propose the question, which is that the Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2019 be now read a third time. The House has put the question, having confirmed that you comply with Article 121 of the Constitution. I therefore put the question, which is that the Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2019, be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Competition Act. Order number 11, motion, report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2019, question to be put on third reading.
Please, those of you, what's wrong with? Just relax. Now, I know these processes sometimes are very confusing. But again, the House concluded debate or consideration of this bill in committee of the whole House. The question could not be put because the House did not, by that time, comply with Article 121, which it now does. And therefore put the question that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2019. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2019, be read a third time. I also request Honorable Limo, the Chair of Finance, to second.
Honorable Limo.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
No, just take a seat there now. Now that's. Please just pay attention to what happens here so that you know what is. Honourable members, I propose the question, which is that the Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2019, be now read a third time. Honourable members, this is the desire of the House that I put the question. Yes. Very well. Again, because you comply with Article 121 of the Constitution, I put the question, which is that the Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2019, be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Insurance Act. Order number 12, motion, report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Nuclear Regulatory Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2019, question to be put.
Now, what is that now? Honourable members, and this is important for even those ones who are in a hurry to do what you are saying, to understand that, yes, the House did consider that this bill, but did not complete. And therefore, the motion reads as follows, which is the question. I agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Nuclear Regulatory Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2019, and seek leave to sit again today. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. So the House will sit again in Committee of the Whole House when we get that business. That's the net effect of the vote. Next question.
Order number 13, motion, annulment of the land registration, electronic land transaction regulations 2019. Mover to reply.
Mover, Honorable Sholei, or Honorable Manzo.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply.
Very well, the mover having replied, the next is for me to put the question, which is that this House adopts a report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the land registration, in brackets, electronic land transactions, in brackets, regulations 2019, in brackets, legal notice number 101 of 2019, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, November 13, 2019, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 18 of the Statutory Instruments Act of 2013, and standing under number 210, subsection 4, paragraph B, annuls in entirety the said regulations. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 14, motion, report on extension of time limit for submissions and publishing of the financial reports of the Central Bank of Kenya.
There was an amendment. Other members, as you would recall, after a number of you had contributed to the motion, which was moved by the Honorable Abdul Samad, the chair of Public Investments Committee. An amendment was proposed, and it is that amendment which needs now to be considered, to be voted on, and the reasons for it were explained by the Honorable Chair, after which, if the House so desires, then you can go back to the motion as amended. I therefore put the question that the motion be amended by inserting the following words after the expression 2018/2019 in brackets for a period not exceeding 6 months pursuant to provisions of sections 54 and 55 of the Central Bank of Kenya Act, Cap 491 of the laws of Kenya. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. I suspect maybe not many of you may understand what the net effect of that amendment. But I'm sure the Honorable Abdul Samad did explain the reason why there was need to bring this amendment, because under the law, you know, you still do not have an Auditor General in this country. You don't have an Auditor General in this country. And there's a requirement under the Central Bank of Kenya Act that the accounts of the Central Bank must be signed off by the Auditor General. But given that it is now more than 3 months since the former Auditor General left. There will be need now for further extension. I think in moving the Honorable Abdul, I don't know if he explained that. So if they are, you understand now, he had already moved to the amendment and it was seconded. So is it that the House to go back to the motion now? So then we call upon the mover to reply. Very well, Honorable Abdul.
Thank you. I respect the leadership of the House. However, Mr. Speaker, within 60 seconds, I just want to state one thing, that the Central Bank of Kenya and Treasury need to be aware that we have extended this from 3 to 6 months. The possibility of this actually, an Auditor General being appointed before the expiry of this extension is very unlikely, considering that we're going on recess and equally considering that we do not know. And I think it is important, Mr. Speaker, that these particular institutions, that is the Treasury and the Central Bank, should write early enough and not write after expiry of that particular deadline. And I'm hoping that either through communication or through any other means that they're actually hearing this, that it is only right for them to respect the sanctity of this House and to respect law, that for further extensions they need to write early enough, otherwise they'll be making a mockery of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to reply.
But of course, you are at liberty to even sanction, propose sanctions for whoever it is that is going to act in breach of this resolution. Your committee, I know, is one of those that continues to meet for some little bit of more time. So it's a matter about which you should actually invite whoever it is, either Treasury or Central Bank, invite them. You draw their attention to the possibility of them being in breach, because we have been magnanimous as a House to make this extension.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We will definitely do so, considering the first time allowable for committees to be able to sit again. We will check on our diaries and immediately do so. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and we stand guided. Let me to reply once again.
Honourable members, I therefore put the question. I put the question as follows: that this House adopts the report of the Public Investments Committee on the extension of time limit for submission and publishing of the financial reports of the Central Bank of Kenya, laid to the table of the House on Wednesday, November 20, 2019, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 90 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, approves the extension of time limit for submission and publishing the financial report of the Central Bank of Kenya for the financial year 2018-2019 for a period not exceeding for a period not exceeding 6 months, pursuant to provisions of sections 54 and 55 of the Central Bank of Kenya Act 491 of the laws of Kenya. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? As many as contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 15, the supplementary appropriation number 2 bill, National Assembly Bill number 81 of 2019, second reading.
Chair, budget.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move for second reading the Supplementary Appropriations Bill number 1 of 2019. Honorable Speaker, we, as members are aware, we did finalize with the report on the supplementary estimates, and you have just reminded members that they had 2 weeks of very vigorous work considering the supplementary estimates that were submitted to this House a few weeks ago. Honorable Speaker, this appropriations bill will authorize the National Treasury to issue a sum of 73,173,074,113 shillings out of the consolidated fund and apply it towards the supply granted for the service of the year ending 30th June 2020. Honorable Speaker, this is divided between both recurrent and capital expenditure for this financial year being the first supplementary budget. And Honorable Speaker, I do not want to belabor many of the things that were said, we said during the report by the Budget and Appropriations Committee, but concerns, Honorable Speaker, as were raised in the previous debate on a supplementary budget, Honorable Speaker, that for the first time we are seeing a supplementary budget which ordinarily ought to be reducing government expenditure, but this is increasing government expenditure to the tune of, as I've mentioned, of about 73 billion shillings. Honorable Speaker, the committee did note these concerns, and also those not just of increased expenditure, Honorable Speaker, but the risk of the country getting into more borrowing and worrying enough, Honorable Speaker, probably even from the domestic market, as a result of this increased expenditure in the backdrop of an economy that is not doing very well, Honorable Speaker. It's on record, Honorable Speaker, that the last financial year we closed with a financing gap on our revenues of about 91 billion shillings, and this, as the Cabinet Secretary had insinuated, is what necessitated a review of our revenue estimates for the financial year 2019-2020. Honorable Speaker, we appreciate the efforts that the National Treasury has made in terms of trying to mop up resources from our parastatals, Honorable Speaker, many of which were holding money against provision of the law, the PFM Act and PFM regulations, Honorable Speaker. And maybe, Honorable Speaker, now even as we discuss the issue of the audited accounts of the Central Bank, and I hope the Chair, Honorable Abdul Samad Sharif, member for Chair PIC, would be listening to this, because we've just approved an extension of time on the audited accounts of the Central Bank. But you realize out of all the parastatals where the National Treasury has been able to mop up resources, the Central Bank still holds a lot of resources in terms of retained revenues. And maybe even as you look at those audited accounts when the Auditor General is formally appointed, you ought to engage with the Central Bank and the National Treasury on how the Central Bank can also release some of these resources for use in other priority areas like reconstruction of roads in Nyando constituency, where you've had their issues to do with floods, and of course areas like West Pokot, where the chair of the Transport and Infrastructure Committee comes from, and with the recent events of landslides, and in Muranga and Garissa, where people are being washed away by floods, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, it will be important, even as we move towards, hopefully, the end of the financial year, Honorable Speaker, as we resume next year, the Ministry of Infrastructure and the National Treasury to consider an affirmative fund to restore infrastructure, especially in the roads industry that have been destroyed by the ongoing rains, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is also important, and I was hoping the National Treasury maybe would come up with an amendment to this appropriations bill to provide adequate resources to ensure that those people in Nyando, those people in West Pokot, and other areas where people are suffering because of the ongoing floods, there are adequate resources to be able to provide relief for these people, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the other concerns, of course, that were expressed even during the previous debate is on issues of using the budget to interfere with the independence of both Parliament and the judiciary, Honorable Speaker. And the committee was emphatic, Honorable Speaker, in safeguarding the independence of the judiciary. We were able to rationalize the budget of the judiciary to ensure that we maintain the financial autonomy and safeguard the independence. And so it is also for Parliament, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the other concerns was the slow pace with which development or capital expenditure is being disbursed by the National Treasury. And Honorable Speaker, that again we have raised with the National Treasury, and we hope with the approval of this appropriations bill, the resources that are being dedicated to development expenditure, Honorable Speaker, the National Treasury will move fast to upload all these figures into the IFMI system and further provide adequate exchequer to the ministries, departments, and agencies of government for them to be able to implement the projects that will have been approved by government. Honorable Speaker, it's important to note that it's only, we are in the 6th month of the financial year, Honorable Speaker. And it will be very important, Honorable Speaker, that if government, or rather MDAs in government, are to be able to absorb this money, Honorable Speaker, then it will be necessary that government is able to disburse exchequer in good time, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to belabor so many things because basically it'll just be a repetition of what we did during debate on the report, Honorable Speaker, and therefore wish to conclude with that and urge the House to support this supplementary appropriations bill, and also remind the House that the CDF funds, the amendments that have been proposed by the Treasury, the Finance Committee negated those amendments, and we agreed with them. And therefore, the CDF funds are secure. And we also hope the National Treasury will move fast to ensure that exchequer is available and released to members of Parliament. So even as we break for the Christmas recess, we will have adequate resources to be able to implement development projects in our backyards, back in our constituents. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request Honorable Mutunga to second.
The Honorable Mutunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to second this motion, to second the adoption of the report by the chairman of the committee. Honorable Speaker, I would like to say that the supplementary budget came to make adjustments which were necessary at the point in time. Honorable Speaker, this will fast-track development because we will avail development resources to the people so that they can start working on the development work. Honorable Speaker, we shall also be able to clear the pending bills as we also look at supporting the Big Four agenda, because Big Four agenda, Honorable Speaker, was a major area of focus in this particular supplementary budget. Honorable Speaker, this is one supplementary budget that we saw a reduction in the recurrent expenditure and an increase in the development expenditure, which is a routine that we should be observing over time, and we hope that it will go that way. Honorable Speaker, we were able to sustain the request or requirements of the Judicial Service Commission so that we can sustain, or rather protect their independence. Honorable Speaker, there was also clear agreement with the Treasury that we should be observant to the context and content of law when they are making up supplementary estimates, and therefore the interpretations that they get from various corners, especially the Attorney General, should be cross-checked for certainty. Honorable Speaker, I support.
The Honorable
Speaker, I second.
Members, allow me then to propose the question that the supplementary appropriation number 2 bill, national bill number 81 of 2019, be now read a second time. Is that the mood of the House? If it's the mood of the House, honorable members, then allow me to comply with the mood of the House. Honorable members, allow me then to put the question that the supplementary appropriation number 2 bill, national bill number 81 of 2019, be now read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of Parliament to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the consolidated fund and the application towards the service of the year ending on the 30th June 2020, and to appropriate those sums for certain public services and purposes. Order number 16 Committee of the Whole House.
Okay. They're not looking at me. Order, members. Honorable members, we are now in committee to consider the Nuclear Regulatory Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2018. And we are picking from clause 85.
Clause 85.
I propose a question, which is that clause 85 be part of the bill. There is an amendment by the chairperson, Honorable Gikaria.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I want to move that clause 86 be amended as per the order.
85, Honorable
sorry.
Chair.
85 be amended as per the order paper. Chair, when we last were here, when we were doing this, I had explained why we were changing from commission to authority. So it's just for the same reasons that we are changing from commission now back to authority. Thank you, Chair.
I go on to propose a question, which is that clause 85 be amended as proposed by the chair. And I'll go on to put the question, which is that clause 85 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the final question, which is that clause 85 be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 86.
We also have an amendment on clause 86, and I go on to propose a question, which is that clause 86 be part of the bill. Honorable Chair.
Honorable Chair, I beg to move that clause 86 be amended as per the order paper for the same reason.
I go on to propose the question, which is that clause 86 be amended as proposed by the chair. And I go on to put the question, which is that clause 86 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the final question, which is that clause 86 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 87.
I propose a question, which is that clause 87 be part of the bill. Chair.
Honorable Chair, I beg to move that clause 87 be amended as per the order paper for the same reason. Thank you.
I go on to propose a question, which is that clause 87 be amended as proposed by the chair. And I go on to put the question, which is that clause 87 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. I go on to put the final question, which is that clause 87 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 88.
I propose a question that clause 88 be part of the bill. Chair.
Honorable Chair, I beg to move that clause 88 be amended as per the order paper for the same reason.
I go on to propose a question, which is that clause 88 be amended as proposed by the chair. And I'll go on to put the question, which is that clause 88 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the final question, which is that clause 88 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. I'll have a go at it again. I put the final question, which is that clause 88 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 89.
I propose a question that clause 89 be part of the bill. Chair.
Honorable Chair, sorry, we were just consulting. Honorable Chair, I beg to move that clause 89 be amended as per the order paper, and it's for the same reason. Thank you.
And I go on to propose the question, which is that clause 89 be amended as proposed by the chair. And I'll go on to put the question that clause 89 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I'll put a final question, which is that clause 89 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 90.
I propose a question that clause 90 be part of the bill. Chairman.
Honorable Chair, I beg to move that clause 90 be amended as per the order paper for the same reason.
And I go on to propose the question that clause 99 be...
Clause 90.
Yes. I go on to propose a question that clause 90 be amended as proposed by the chair. And I go on to put the question that clause 90 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the final question that clause 90 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 91.
Clause 91, I go on to propose a question that clause 91 be part of the bill. Chair.
Honorable Chair, I beg to move that clause 91 be amended as per the order paper for the same reason.
I propose a question that clause 91 be amended as proposed by the chair. And I'll go on to put the question that clause 91 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the final question that clause 91 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 92.
We have no amendment on 92, and I go on to propose a question that clause 92 be part of the bill. And I go on to put the question that clause 92 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 93.
I propose a question, which is that clause 93 be part of the bill. Chairman? Do we have a change of guard in the seat of the chairman?
I'm just consulting on some of the issues.
That's in order.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move that 93 be amended as per the order paper. The reason, Chair, is that commissions are independent offices which are created through a constitutional amendment, and the Act therefore puts it as an authority.
Okay, I go on to propose a question, which is that clause 93 be amended as proposed by the chair. I go on to put the question that clause 93 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I put the final question that clause 93 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clauses, clause 94, 95, and 96.
These are clauses without amendments. And I go on to propose a question that clauses 94, 95, and 96 be part of the bill. And I go on to put the question that clauses 94, 95, and 96 be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 97.
I propose a question that clause 97 be part of the bill. Chair?
Madam Chair, I propose the amendment as per the order paper. We are replacing here a commission with the authority for the same reasons given.
All right. I go on to propose a question that clause 97 be amended as proposed by the chair. And I go on. I see an interest from the Honorable Dr. Nyikal, member for Seme.
Yeah, I think whereas I support that, if you look at that 98, down where application of authorization design, is it sitting or citing?
Citing.
Citing. Yes. Is the spelling then correct? But the authority commission that I support, but maybe the chair can now think of whether that can be amended.
Chair, do you want to?
Should be citing. I think it's a typographical error.
Put that on record, Chair.
It is citing, because you do the citing of the place where you are going to put the nuclear power, not sitting. I think it's a typographical
It's a typo.
Yes, thank you.
All right, I think we can then proceed.
97.
I go on to put the question, which is that clause 97 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. I put the final question that clause 97 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 98.
I propose the question that clause 98 be part of the bill. Mover?
Honorable Chair, I propose that the clause 98 be amended as per the order paper. We are deleting commission and replacing and substituting with the word authority for the same reason.
I go on to propose a question that clause 98 be amended as proposed by the chair. And I'll go on to put the question that clause 98 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the final question, which is that clause 98 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 99.
I propose a question that clause 99 be part of the bill. Chairman?
Honorable Chair, I propose that clause 99 of the bill be amended in subclause 2 by deleting paragraph B. This is an unnecessary provision as all subsidiary legislation remains in force unless revoked by the Cabinet Secretary. In B, deleting paragraph D and substituting therefore the following new paragraph. D, members of the former Radiation Protection Board and the Chief Radiation Protection Officer shall continue to serve in the authority in the corresponding positions as members of the board and Director General respectively for their unexpired term. To delete the references to the Commission, the committee resolved to rename the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Commission as the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority. The board is the administrative organ of the authority. Yes.
You're done?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, I go on to propose the question, which is that clause 99 be amended as proposed by the chair. And I'll go on to put the question, which is that clause 99 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the final question, which is that clause 99 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 100.
I see that we have two proposed amendments, and I'll go on to propose a question, which is that clause 100 be part of the bill. Let's have the chair, Energy, go first.
Honorable Chair, I propose that clause 100 of the bill be amended by deleting the word commission wherever it appears and substituting the word authority. To delete the references to the commission, the committee resolved to rename the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Commission as the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority, because commissions are independent offices which are created by a constitutional amendment.
I go on to propose the question, which is that clause 100 as amended be amended as proposed by the chair, Chair Energy. And I go on to put the question, which is that clause 100 be amended as proposed by the Chair Energy. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the we have to go back to Chair Health. Chair Health, it's your turn. I see Honorable Kimunya engaging vigorously with the Chair and Health. It's clause 100, Chair Energy. Page 2490 on the order paper.
Chair, what I have, Chair, I want to move the amendment that clause 100 of the bill be amended by inserting the word budget immediately after the word asset. Currently, the Radiation Protection Board is fully financed by the National Treasury to the tune of around 80 million through the Ministry of Health. It is therefore critical to have this budget maintained.
Chair, kindly move the amendment.
Okay.
First.
I want to move the amendment that the clause 100 of the bill be amended by inserting the word budget immediately after the word asset. I beg to move. Chair, the justification is that currently the Radiation Protection Board is fully financed by National Treasury to the tune of 80 million through the Ministry of Health. It is therefore critical to have this budget maintained by the authority since the bill is intended to repeal the Radiation Protection Act, Cap 243, and provide for a more comprehensive legislative framework with a broader regulatory space to cover all areas of interest in line with Kenya development agenda and current expanded use of radiological or nuclear materials and associated technologies. I move, Chair.
I propose a question, which is that clause 100 be further amended as proposed by the Chair, Health. I go on to put the question that clause 100 be further amended as proposed by the Chair, Health Committee. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the final question that clause 100 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 101.
I propose a question that clause 101 be part of the bill. Chairperson.
Honorable Chair, I move that clause 101 be amended as per the order paper. This is deleting the word commission wherever it appears and substituting the word authority for the reasons that I had given earlier. Thank you, Chair.
I propose a question, which is that clause 101 be amended as proposed by the Chair. I go on to put the question that clause 101 be amended as proposed by the Chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as our contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the final question, which is that clause 101 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 102.
I propose a question that clause 102 be part of the bill. Chair?
Honorable Chair, I move that clause 102 be amended as per the order paper, replacing, this is deleting commission wherever it appears and substituting the word authority wherever it appears for the reasons herein given before.
I go on to propose the question, which is that clause 102 be amended as proposed by the Chair. And I go on to put the question that clause 102 be amended as proposed by the Chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And I go on to put the final question that clause 102 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Schedule.
I propose that the schedule be part of the bill. Chairman?
Honorable Chair, I move that the bill be amended as per the order paper by deleting the schedule and substituting therefore the following new schedule. This is in provision of the conduct of business of the board.
I propose the question that the schedule be amended as proposed by the chair. Member for Seme?
Chair, that is a very major change because that's a whole schedule replacing with another whole schedule. I think it would be important that the salient changes in the two schedules be pointed out for the members to make the decision.
Chair?
Honorable Chair, in this schedule, we are deleting the references to the commission. The committee resolved to rename the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Commission as the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority. The board is the administrative organ of the authority. And then two, we also want to reduce the term of the members of the board from 4 years to 3 years. The term is renewable once. So this is actually what we have achieved by that.
I hope the member for Seme is satisfied. I go on to put the question, which is that the schedule be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. I go on to put the final question, which is that the schedule as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 2.
We have two proposed amendments, and I go on to propose a question, which is that clause 2 be part of the bill. We can have the chair health.
Yes, close to. It's okay. It's okay. A further amendment. You do a further amendment. So you're amending first.
Honorable Chair Health, I hope you're less distracted now and you can. And I think it's also important to be clear that should the proposed amendment by the Chair Health pass, then the one to be proposed by the Chair Energy will have, no, he will have to move his amendment without paragraph C, because paragraph C serves the same purpose as what the Chair Health is putting across. Yes. Chair Health.
Thank you, thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to move this amendment with a further amendment in an amended form, which will read that I would like to move that clause 2 of the bill be amended by deleting the word interior security and substituting therefore with the word health. The
Substituting with the word health.
Health, yeah. Not nuclear and radiation safety. It is health. It's a further amendment, Chair. So we'll delete the word interior security and replace it with substitute it therefore with the word health. So I'm doing a further amendment from what I had proposed. Interior and radiation safety. This is after consultation with the Chair Energy.
So you're moving your amendment in an amended form?
Yes, in an amended form.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's the proper way.
Yes, and Chair, thank you. Chair, I move the justification is exposure to radiation and radiological or nuclear materials beyond established limits may lead to birth defects, abnormalities, cancers, radiation shock, death, and long-term contamination of the environment, therefore rendering it uninhabitable. And these are purely health issues and will therefore be well handled by the authority when placed under the Ministry of Health instead of Ministry of Interior, which is just about the security. I beg to move, Chair.
I go on to propose the question, which is that clause 2 be amended as proposed by the Chair Health. Member for Seme?
Chair, I stand to support that amendment, and I think it's important that the Chair Health has explained what it means because of the importance of health matters in radiation generally. So I think that is an important amendment I support.
I go on to put the question, which is that clause 2 be amended as proposed by the Chair Health. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. Let's have the Chair Energy. And now you will have to omit
I omit C.
C.
Yes. Honorable Chair, I move that clause 2 of the bill be amended as per the order paper, excluding C. Excluding C.
Do you want to expound on that?
Honorable Chair, what we are giving is definitions in the first part of the clause, where we talk of the activity. What is the activity as per this act means? And then the cabinet secretary, authorization, deleting the commission appearing immediately after the words by the and substitute therefore the word authority. So we're just cleaning up, Madam Chair, then clearance levels and giving definitions. Basically, it's definitions which are self-explanatory.
Okay. I go on to propose the question, which is that clause 2 be further amended as proposed by the Chair Energy.
Put the question.
I go on to put the question. Yes, Honorable Member for Seme.
It's not clear to me, and I really would get some indications, because this is, I think, definition on exposure means the act of conditions of being subjected to in radiation or subject to radiation. And that is where your facilities mean A, B, C. So here we are really actually then talking about the facilities. How does it, I think I would like to get more explanation on how C really needs to be excluded.
On which clause is that?
2. And
2A?
no, 2, and then the only place I can see C is on page 946 of the act, of the bill.
We have A, B, D.
Honorable Member for Dr. Anyikal.
Yeah.
C has been expunged already by virtue of the amendment passed by the Chair Health, which sought to do the same thing as what the Chair Energy was to do under C. So that's why it automatically gets expunged with the passing of the amendment by the Chair Health. So you should not even be making reference to it because it doesn't exist anymore.
Let me see what that.
You okay?
Maybe, Madam Chair, if Honorable Dr. Nyikal could go to what is on the computer, because that is labeled from A all the way to Q, all the way to Q, and it's giving definitions, excluding C. So we have our whole range, and in it you have definition of what is radioactive waste, you have definition of what is a source, you have a definition of what board means. It's a wide range, and so on and so forth. It's just defining.
Yeah, page 2474.
Yes.
Of the order paper. Yes. So we can go ahead to put the 2474. So we'll go on to put a question, which is that clause 2 be further amended as proposed by the Chair Energy. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. I go on to put the final question, which is that clause 2 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Title. I
propose the question that the title be part of the bill. I propose the question that the title be the title of the bill. I go on to put the question, which is that the title be the title of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose a question that clause 1 be part of the bill. There being no amendment, I go on to put the question, which is that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. I now call upon the mover to move reporting. Honorable Gikaria.
Sorry, Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Nuclear Regulatory Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2018, and its approval thereof with amendment.
I go on to put the question for reporting, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Nuclear Regulatory Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2018, and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Will as many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Chair.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Nuclear Regulatory Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2018, and approved the same with amendments.
Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I also request Honorable Dr. Pukose to second the motion for agreement with the report of the committee to the whole House.
I second.
Honorable members, allow me then to propose the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable members, I direct that the next necessary steps on this particular business to be undertaken when the matter will be set down for consideration again. I therefore direct that we move to the next order of business.
Order number 17, motion, report on consideration of the Central Bank of Kenya Mortgage Refinance Companies Regulations 2019.
The Honorable Sholay.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the motion that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Central Bank of Kenya Mortgage Refinance Companies Regulations 2019, legal notice number 134 of 2019, laid on the table of this House on Thursday, November 21st, 2019, and pursuant to the provisions and sections of Section 18 of the Statutory Instruments Act 2013 and Standing Order 2010 4B, annuls Regulation 26(2) and Regulation 42 of the said regulations. Honorable Speaker, I am proud to report before this House today for the final time this session to move a report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation. It has been a busy session with a lot of business referred to the committee. In terms of business, the committee considered 75 published instruments and 22 draft instruments and 2 bills from the Senate. Out of 75, the committee recommended annulment of 39 instruments and approved 36 instruments. I'm happy to report that the committee expeditiously considered all the published instruments without seeking extension of time, and none has lapsed in our hands. This is a track record that the committee is determined to maintain, and I'm immensely proud of. Honorable Speaker, sir, I will now delve into the subject matter of this motion. The Central Bank of Kenya Mortgage Refinance Companies Regulations 2019 were made by the Governor of Central Bank pursuant to Section 57(1) of the Central Bank of Kenya Act, Cap 491. The regulations were published in the Kenya Gazette via legal notice number 134 of 2019 on the 2nd of August 2019, received by the Clerk of the National Assembly on the 11th September 2019, and tabled before the House on the 11th of September 2019. The Central Bank of Kenya Mortgage Refinance Companies Regulations 2019 are intended to operationalize the mortgage refinance legal regime introduced to the Central Bank through the Central Bank Act, through the Finance Act 2018. The Finance Act amended the CBK Act to provide for the legal framework for licensing and regulating the mortgage refinance business by Central Bank. Section 57(1) of the Central Bank of Kenya Act, Cap 491, provides that the bank may make regulations, issue guidelines, circulars, and directives for the purpose of giving effect to the provisions of the Act and generally for the better carrying out of the objects of the bank under this Act. Honorable Speaker, the regulations contain mortgage refinance business. It contains issues relating to licensing. It contains issues relating to governance. It contains issues relating to loans, risk classification and provisioning of loans, capital requirements and liquidity management, internal controls, reporting requirements, and finally, guidelines on voluntary liquidation. Honorable Speaker, the committee observed that the statutory timelines set out in Section 11 of the Statutory Instruments Act was adhered to by the Central Bank. The regulations were brought before the Clerk of the National Assembly on the 11th of September 2019 and tabled before this House on the same date. The committee also observed that consultation and public participation, as required by the Statutory Instruments Act, with persons and stakeholders that are likely to be affected was undertaken. The regulation-making authority subjected the draft regulations through various meetings with the stakeholders such as commercial banks, microfinance bank, SACCOs, the National Treasury, and the general public. The draft regulations were also placed on the Central Bank of Kenya website in February 2019. Honorable Speaker, Section 6, 7, and 8 of the Statutory Instruments Act requires that the regulation-making authority must carry out a regulatory impact assessment and submit to Parliament a regulatory impact statement if the proposed regulations has significant cost or impact to the community or section of the community. The regulation-making authority, in this case the Central Bank, did not conduct a regulatory impact assessment. Neither did it submit a regulatory impact statement to the House as required by the law. Honorable Speaker, also the Statutory Instruments Act, Section 13, requires that the regulations should not inappropriately delegate legislative powers to another body. And therefore, Regulation 26(2) gives the CBK the power to provide guidelines and other forms and manner in which the place of business may be open, located, or closed. Regulation 42 gives Central Bank of Kenya power to issue guidelines on group structures and mortgage refinance companies. By so doing, Central Bank in these regulations has actually improperly delegated certain legislative powers and therefore is irregular. And for that reason, Honorable Speaker, the committee, having examined the Central Bank of Kenya Mortgage Refinance Companies Regulations 2019 against the Constitution, the Interpretation and General Provisions Act Cap 2, the Central Bank of Kenya Cap 491, and the Statutory Instruments Act number 23 of 2013, the committee recommends to this House that pursuant to Standing Order number 210-4B, the House annuls Regulation 26(2) and 42 as they contravene Section 13 of the Statutory Instruments Act by inappropriately delegating legislative powers to the Central Bank of Kenya to issue guidelines. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, allow me for the time to acknowledge the tireless efforts of the members of staff of the Committee on Delegated Legislation for their exceptional service. I also want to thank the members of the Committee on Delegated Legislation, the honorable members, for their spirit of excellence in their service in the committee. And finally, Honorable Speaker, I wish to all members of this House happy holidays and a wonderful long recess after this busy third session. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request that Honorable Sir George Murugara, Member of Parliament for Tharaka Nithi constituency, and also the de facto Vice Chair of the Committee on Delegated Legislation, to move to second this report. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Before the inimitable
Yes.
Honorable George Mungara, second. This is a new one, that he's also a sir, and he's now the de facto vice chair. Those are tough terms, and I'm sure that is why the Honorable Millie Odhiambo looks perturbed. But I have no doubt that the Honorable George Murugara is equal to those very superlative accolades. And I hope that they rest well on his shoulders. The Honorable George Murugara, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those were quite some nice accolades to me, and I do appreciate them, and I hope I'm able to live to the task that is put into my hands. Honorable Speaker, first and foremost, I do associate myself with the able presentation that has been made by the chairperson of the Committee on Delegated Legislation. The reasons why the committee has had to annul the two sections have been clearly set out, and it is vitally important that we do reiterate to this House that the only authority that is given power by the Constitution to make laws is actually Parliament. And therefore, any other person who abrogates to himself or herself, or purports to abrogate to himself or herself the power to make laws, acts outravires the Constitution and outravires the Parent Act as far as this matter is concerned. This is the reason why we have moved the House to actually annul only two sections of these regulations. The rest of the regulations were okay. They were approved by the committee, and the regulatory making authority has been informed accordingly. The problem with the two regulations are that the Central Bank of Kenya, which is the regulatory making authority in this case, purports to abrogate to itself powers to make rules and regulations which actually have the force of law when they are not allowed to do so, or they are expressly prohibited by Section 13M of the Statutory Instruments Act. these two sections, if left, these two regulations, if left to pass as they are, will see to it that the Central Bank of Kenya continues to issue guidelines, to issue regulations, to issue notes, which actually have the force of law both on other banks and on the customers of the banks. The net effect is the central bank will be making laws or regulations without bringing them to this house, which have the force of affecting those who actually consume banking services in the country. As a result, then this is of the people of Kenya. And this is why this committee carefully considered these two regulations and came to the conclusion that the Central Bank of Kenya was acting ultra vires in abrogating to itself the power to make rules and regulations with the force of law without having to come to this house. We need to remind every regulation-making authority that regulations have to be made and then brought to this house, and this house has the power to approve or disapprove those regulations. And sometimes we can annul the entire set of regulations. Other times, we pick the offensive regulations only for annulment, as we have done in this case. With those remarks, I do associate myself with the presentation of the chairperson, and as this house is now going on recess, and we are into the festive season of Christmas, let me wish all the members of the house season's greetings, happy holidays, a very wonderful recess with our constituents. I personally look forward to now going to Tharaka for almost 2 months to interact with my constituents, to listen to their needs and aspirations, and also to explain to them what I have been able to get from the executive for the betterment of their lives in the constituency. With those remarks, I beg to second.
Honorable Murugara, as always, this particular speaker always enjoys your contributions. But honorable members, allow me then to propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Central Bank of Kenya Mortgage Refinance Companies Regulations 2019, legal notice number 134 of 2019, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, November 21st, 2019, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 18 of the Statutory Instruments Act 2013 and Standing Order 210 4B annuls Regulation 26, subsection 2, and Regulation 42 of the said regulations. I see interest from the Honorable Nangabo, the Honorable Thuku Kwenya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to speak on this matter that has been brought to us by the Delegated Legislation Committee. And I want to, from onset, to congratulate this committee because of late, the rates seem to be on overdrive in terms of making sure that the regulations that have been passed are in tandem with the changing world and really that they are constitutional. And I think this is one of the committees that needs to be the pact on the back through the able chairmanship of the Iron Lady, Boss Sholei, the Honorable, and the newest in the House, Honorable Sir George. And Mr. Speaker, looking at these regulations that were drafted by Central Bank, and of course the same passed by this House, and now the subsequent annulment of Section 26 and Section 42. This begs a lot of questions because Central Bank seems to be acting arbitrarily. We have been subjected to a lot of suffering especially when we go to banks, when we want to withdraw money. We cannot withdraw money as and when we want it, because there are some regulations that they are trying to draft, albeit that are not been passed by either this house through delegated legislation, the delegated committee. They are not passed. Yet, once I walk into a bank, I cannot withdraw any amount that is above 1 million. And now the question begs, whose business is it to do due diligence? Because I cannot do business, have my money banked in my favorite bank, and then I cannot withdraw that money at will. The burden stops, and the burden is and should be with the bank to do due diligence to find out if that money is a proceed of crime, and if it be proceed of crime, then they're supposed to do the necessary, call the relevant agencies and have me taken to court to answer charges over the same, but not subjecting us to the kind of shenanigans they are putting us in. We cannot withdraw money at will. And there seems to be very comfortable with that. And just by a mere circular that has been done to all the banks, and the banks are so afraid to contravene the so-called circulars. I don't see any problem with anybody walking to a bank to collect his money, because the banks are custodians. But on coming to this annulment that has been proposed by this honorable committee, the issue of central bank trying to regulate as to where these microfinances or lending institutions or mortgage refinance companies should open their businesses, it is illegal from the outset. This is a contravention to the rights to do business as to where and where you want to do your business, because central bank is overstepping its mandate in trying to regulate as to where you can open business. And therefore, I want to take this opportunity to really thank this committee for having an eye for the people of Kenya, because we've been subjected to a lot of suffering that is not anchored in any law, actually contravention of our rights as Kenyans. But this committee has been able to reign over all the organizations that have been mandated or have this delegated opportunity to legislate. And with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I wish to congratulate this committee, and I pray that any committee that is in the House should take cue, because to take cue of what delegated legislation committee is doing, because we seem to be under, this House seems to be taking instructions from some quarter without really caring whether whatever the instructions are coming within the law, and which is not acceptable. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support the work of this committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Thuku, are you done? Very well. We shall have contribution from the Honorable Odhiambo Akoth, member for Suba North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity at the onset to say that I support the committee report, but also to congratulate this committee for an excellent job that they have been doing. Mr. Speaker, if you actually notice, this committee has brought several regulations, and they are, not only have they brought it before the House, but they are very diligent, and they've ensured that most of the regulations that are brought must conform not only with the Constitution, but with the parent legislation. And they have also stayed true to the legislative mandate of Parliament, because we know a lot of bodies, parastatals and other executive arms sometimes seek to overstretch their mandates, and they want to legislate when or where they shouldn't. And Mr. Speaker, we are not saying that they cannot give regulations, but when they want to give substantive regulations or other provisions, then they must come back to Parliament, and Parliament must agree with them, because the child cannot be greater than the parent. And when you are making regulations, the regulations must inhere from the parent act. But a lot of the bodies do not conform with this. But I'm very happy that I'm noticing that there's a trend. Originally, this committee would throw out all regulations. But because of their diligence, most agencies are beginning to comply. So you are seeing only sections that are being rejected. And therefore, let me thank the committee. And I also want to agree with them that we cannot stop Kenyans from doing businesses in any part of the country. And if there is a reason why Central Bank, or another reason that Central Bank needs that we need to know of, then they must come back to Parliament. And as the people who are elected by the public, then we must agree with them or disagree with them. But they cannot on their own do that. Mr. Speaker, let me also just congratulate the committee for safeguarding the public good in that regard. And congratulations to the chair, Honorable Gladys Sholay. You're very diligent, not just as a chair, but as a lawyer. But let me also take this opportunity to congratulate your de facto vice chair. I don't know what happened to your de jure chair, but that means you're also showing a vote of no confidence. I don't know why. But let me also congratulate Jennifer. Jennifer is always doing an excellent job, even when the chair is away. And chair, I get extremely happy when I see women MPs doing an excellent job. And I wish that we had a system of rewarding especially women MPs when they are doing this excellent job. And Mr. Speaker, that is why I also want to encourage my sisters that in the same spirit, and because it was so difficult for us as women members, in the 10th Parliament we were so few. And with the few numbers, we were able to do so much. In fact, I am so thrilled that this bill was actually brought by none other than Honorable Amina Abdallah. And because of the work Honorable Amina Abdallah, now we have a chair, Gladys Bosholei, who is a woman, doing further excellent job. And Honorable Jennifer Shamala, always there supporting her. And Honorable Millie here also supporting. We are doing better than our male members of Parliament. But having said, I know I can see there's a member who is complaining. Of course we are, Chair. Mr. Speaker, there's a member who is trying to harass me that it's not doing better. But even if we just look at the handstand alone, there is proof that we are doing better than the male members.
The Honorable Millie Odhiambo.
Yes.
I have not known you to be harassed or to be intimidated. I have no doubt that you are not at all threatened by the Honorable Ngushine, who is sitting across the aisle from you.
Mr. Speaker, that is why I'm saying I'm not saying that he's harassed me. He's trying, but failing miserably. Because when you have Honorable Millie and Honorable Gladys and Honorable Jennifer Shamala in the House, you cannot touch the women. We are doing excellent job, Mr. Speaker. But the measurement, Mr. Speaker, is one, in terms of the qualitative work, but also the quantitative work. Show me any committee that is doing the excellent work that Honorable Gladys Bosholei is doing here. She's doing an excellent job. But Mr. Speaker, having said that, that is why I want to plead with our women members that in the 10th Parliament, we were so few. And we tried and we managed to get 47 women. And it pains my heart when we tear into each other as women MPs. When we put our energies together, we can achieve so much. These positions that we've gotten, especially affirmative action, Mr. Speaker, we are not too sure whether if we put this onto referendum, whether we'll get these seats back. Let us not draw attention to ourselves for the wrong reason. We have our own member, we may disagree. I'm encouraging women MPs. Let us retreat and talk to each other in the background instead of calling press conferences to attack one of our own. Let us continue with the excellent job we are doing in this House as women MPs, and do not be distracted by men to take away the good work that we are doing. Because I'm sure behind that press conference, there's a male MP who told the women to go. Do your work here without being thrown by the men MPs to go and do their dirty work. If a male MP wants to attack a woman member of Parliament, let him come on direct and let that woman MP deal with them directly. I know Honorable Gedi can deal with that male member of parliament direct, but don't send a woman to fight another woman. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, let me yet again congratulate the committee and congratulate Honorable Gladys Beausoleil. She's done an excellent job. Honorable Jennifer Shamala, and the de facto, but not the jure Vice Chairman. I want to thank you and congratulations. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Diambo, you went slightly off the trail, but the Speaker is in a magnanimous mood this evening, seeing as it is that Christmas is beckoning. The Honorable Shamala.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the recommendations of this report. But before that, I want to thank the Honorable Millie Odhiambo for her very gracious comments. She herself is actually an incredible inspiration, not only to women out there, girls and citizenry at large, but to myself. And so whenever I have queries, I do talk to the Honorable Millie Odhiambo, and she's added a lot of value to my own personal life. I wish to state on record that I am the intellectual property rights holder of the name Sir George. It was me who baptized him Sir George. And at another time, and any time it will be used economically, I will demand and reserve my right to royalties for the phrase Sir George. At another time, I will give you the names of the others in my committee. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, sir, indeed I want to say that in this session, we have dealt with over 100 regulations. And I want to reiterate that it is not all the regulations that come to Parliament. What comes to this chamber are the regulations that we are annulling. Indeed, committees, all committees, not only our committee, are the engine of Parliament. And I think that it is important for the public, for the people of Kenya to know that the work is really not done here, it is at the committee stage. That we sit literally every day, every morning, save for Wednesdays, in committee meetings. We spend several weekends outside of our homes, outside of our constituencies, in committee meetings. Indeed, committees are the engine of Parliament. I want to, at this point, say that the committee is always and strictly guided by the Statutory Instruments Act, and it is by this act that we make our decisions. I further want to also take the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to thank my colleagues, honourable members of Parliament, for the wonderful year that we have had as we go on our long recess, to wish my colleagues, the members of Parliament, the people of Kenya, blessings, a blessed holiday, a safe holiday, and I hope that as we go on this long recess, we take a time to reflect about our country. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, sir, I do support.
Very well spoken. And it is noteworthy that those proposed regulations that your committee has nipped in the bud timely would have usurped the very role of this Parliament. And they are unconstitutional, therefore, in that, to that extent. From what I hear, the contributions of Sir George and the great gracious lady, the chair, and of course, the teacher, legislator, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo, who has been so kind and offered the succor to the Honorable Shamala in this house. That is quite commendable. We shall have contribution from the Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I also take this opportunity to appreciate the work that this committee is doing. I stand actually to support the adoption of this. I appreciate the committee because in the last Parliament, I remember we never really had so many reports. But since this committee has been on with the chair, we've actually had very many reports from that committee. And I also want to support them, to appreciate them and support them, Mr. Speaker, because at the beginning, when the report started appearing, they were annulling virtually all the regulations that were brought. But I can see now, at least in this case of the central bank, we have only had 2 sections of the regulations that they brought that have been annulled, meaning the others have actually applied to the legal and the constitutional requirement. So because I say that, it's also important to remember that the banks had been issuing many, many instructions, and now we wonder whether all those instructions that you had in the banks when you are depositing money, when you are withdrawing money, whether you should be charged, all those things are in line with the law. And I think it's important to find out, maybe the committee can help in this, are there circulars, instructions out there in the banks that people are still adhering to that are actually contrary to these regulations that have been annulled? Mr. Speaker, one also wonders, when we have these bodies, the central bank, the ministries, bring regulations, these are serious government institutions that many have legal officers that can get support if they require from the Attorney General's office. How come, Mr. Speaker, that they go through this, their committees, whatever they have, and still bring to this committee regulations that are not in order? I think there should be a process of actually sending some sanction to any institution that brings regulations that are not in line with the Constitution and the law. Because what else is happening in those ministries or institutions that are actually not in line with the law, if what they bring to us are actually not in line with the law? I think that's an important point to think about. But lastly, Mr. Speaker, when the chair comes and actually introduces a de facto vice chair, as much as it may be in jest, it is actually a very serious statement of the working of the de jure vice chair. And I think it should not just be left as de facto. Serious action should be taken to make sure that either the de jure vice chair works or actually is replaced. That's a serious statement coming before the House. But overall, Mr. Speaker, I support and actually appreciate this committee.
And if the great doctor himself appreciates the work of this committee, then really it must be good. And it is true, if the real vice chair of this committee is enjoying the fruit of that tree of vice chair, then he should put in the labor to ensure that that fruit is fed. And if he is not up to it, and the great Sir George, Honorable, is up to the task, then why shouldn't he enjoy the fruit of his labors? The Honorable Nguchine, the member for Central Imenti.
Most of it, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I take this opportunity to support the motion by the Committee of Delegated Regulations as relates to this regulation number 26, subsection 2 and 42 of the Central Bank of Kenya, as it relates to mortgage finance companies, regulations number 2019, regulations of 2019, legal notice number 134 of 2019. Mr. Speaker, sir, as it has been assigned by the other speakers before me, may I take this opportunity to congratulate this committee on delegated legislation, because surely, as it is shown in the paper before us, in the motion before us, they have done much. But it's not them alone who have done so, even though my friend, Honorable Miri, has insisted that they are the best in the House. I do remember in the committee of which I sit in, the Committee of Defense and Foreign Relations, we have never, at any given time, been banned by the law, at any material time,
failed to deliver at the time expected. So many committees in this house, not necessarily those who are led by ladies alone, even by men, this parliament has really done much. From the time I joined it, I can say that it is a hard-working parliament. Other than hiccups here and there, where there are reasons, especially the ones which are brought by CSS and the PSS in various ministries, whereby they fail to deliver upon the questions they are asked in time. That's when we are caught up by time, but not in my committee of defense and foreign relations. Mr. Speaker, sir, coming out of that, the regulations which the committee placed that it be annulled, this house will also take notice that the central bank has taken upon itself to forget that in Kenya, from the time we obtained the new constitution of 2010, a number of things which are done to affect the public, the common mwananchi, they are supposed to pass through public participation. And the central bank these days issues regulations even without considering how it is going to affect the common man on the ground, or even the businessman who is intending to open his business somewhere to assist the community and also assist himself. I'm saying so because if you look at the law as it is now, a pastoralist, or an agricultural person and a farmer who keeps cattle or who keeps livestock, as well as farming as tea, milk, as well as coffee, to get 1 million shillings, he requires to sell just one bull, one ingot, and some little earnings from coffee, and he make 1 million. There is no agreement made when you are selling your bull. You just, it's a wedding buyer, wedding seller. Wedding buyer, wedding seller. And then you go to the society or circle somewhere, you get your 500, your 200,000 shillings, together with the price of the bull, it then becomes 1 million. Now, when you take it to the bank requires you to produce an agreement of if it's a shamba which you have sold or what you have done to acquire this million. They have forgotten that things, and even Kenyan currency has been devalued to an extent that the million of today is not like the million which used to be there in 1970s. So central bank has taken Kenyans for granted by issuing regulations, orders, regulations, and rules which are really impeding business and development in Kenya. And as for that, the committee of delegated legislation has even more work to do other than the one which they have done now, or now to prevail upon central bank because of these rules and regulations which they use now and then. For one to withdraw 1 million shillings, you must explain where you are taking that money. And they are forgetting that if you are doing any little business, let's say construction, or if you want to go to buy something, even to buy some spare parts of a vehicle, sometimes they cost even more than that. Now, I wonder, are we in the same Kenya where we are talking of freedom of business, free enterprise, developing economy, the economy which you wanted to have 24-hour economy? Is it possible with this kind of regulations? So, to me, central bank as it is, unless this house prevails upon central bank, come up with a regulation, with the legislation, which give it in direction of what it's supposed to do. We have given it so much freedom that the regulations which they have been around by some sections of this act to be using to regulate issues, it has become an impediment on business in Kenya. And as for that, Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand hereby to say that something must be done about central bank because it is become an impediment to any business entrepreneurs in Kenya. One can operate a business anywhere in Kenya, provided he is a Kenyan, he has an identity card, and he has anything to identify himself as a Kenyan. Why not to open a business in Rwanda? Why should I consult central bank that I want to open a business in Rwanda? Why should I consult central bank that I want to open business in Mombasa or in Meru or Kisumu? And it is part of the country. If the constitution allows me to settle anywhere, why can't I start business there? So these regulations, I am saying, Mr. Speaker, sir, they are an impediment to development of Kenya, and we cannot in development with this kind of regulations and orders because they were meant, if I am very sure of which I believe, they were meant to be impeding Africans during the time of colonial rule, so that Africans could not open business in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, and all the other big capitals. at that material time. They carried it forward, trying to decorate it in one way or the other, and it has come up now to be imposed by the black colonialists who are sitting in those big offices, and they are stepping on the ends of those people who matters much. To conclude, since, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are going on recess, I wish the members of this House are going to recess, and they pray that at the end of the day, let's go back to the people who elected us. They want to see us with them, especially over Christmas, so that at least they can hear what we have been doing throughout the year. They have a Merry Christmas, but they take care that every part of Kenya now it is very raining. You just go there carelessly, driving like the way you have been driving in Nairobi. If you come to Meru, or you go to West Pokot, you are taken away by those fresh waters, and you'll be very sorry to be contributing here because a member of parliament was swept away by water. So I'm praying that they be careful, especially when it comes to Masai Rad, like when I see my friend there, like their place, I understand it's impossible, but I wish them the best. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Very well spoken, the Honorable Ngushine. You have reaffirmed the position of the male members, their contributions, their worthy contributions in this House, and that they will not go the alleged way of the boy child who seems to have been overtaken by the girl child. I think we should try as much as possible, the Honorable Millie, who is sitting next to you, that we should develop this tool in pari passu, as it were. The Honorable Kitonga has been waiting. Let him have his say on this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm part of the team of the great delegated committee, a committee of delegated legislation. And Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to support this motion. Mr. Speaker, Central Bank has done very many regulations which have not been brought to Parliament, and you find them when you go into banks. And you wonder where did this come from and why are you doing it? The other day, I was told that I have to give my biometrics in a bank before I'm served, and I wondered what regulation it was. And although I cooperated because I needed the money, later on I realized that, Mr. Speaker, I had to sign a contract. So they have a way of going around the law so that it looks like it is my agreement with the bank, Mr. Speaker. And this is also has happened to this regulation. And the main point of amending these regulations by the Central Bank, Mr. Speaker, is because although they have been delegated certain powers, they have now delegated those powers to another body. Of course, there's a principle in law that you cannot delegate when you have also been delegated. And that is the principle they have breached, Mr. Speaker. Generally, there must be public participation. It was poorly done in this case. I am a supporter of SACCOs. They deal with the finances. Central Bank, to a great extent, is managing them. And they were not consulted, Mr. Speaker, among microfinances, and the public participation, Mr. Speaker, was poor. And again, they went against Section 13 of the Statutory Instruments Act, Mr. Speaker, Section 13M. And therefore, having breached the law, this committee, Mr. Speaker, found it good that we annul this regulation, Mr. Speaker, so that they can go and reorganize themselves and come back to this House. Mr. Speaker, while I'm completing, I want to say that while making any law, Mr. Speaker, we must follow the Constitution, then the law which is there, and then the regulations flow. You cannot make regulations which are unconstitutional or which do not originate from an act. I beg to support, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Well, the Honorable Kitonga, the Honorable Eve Obara, member for Kabondo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to speak on this motion, and I too stand to support. Mr. Speaker, there are too many. Some people here are distracting me, Mr. Speaker. Can I be protected?
What is distracting? The Honorable Odhiambo. You are the teacher legislator.
Yes,
for the female
can you consult
legislators
with the low tones, please?
Allow her to also develop. The Honorable Eve.
Thank you very
Proceed.
much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said before, that I too support the motion, and I congratulate the team for a job well done and for annulling the regulations. Mr. Speaker, they have actually reclaimed the role of Parliament and stood with the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I want to say here that this is a clear message to other agencies not to attempt to bring regulations and rules that are not in line with the law. Once again, not to repeat what has already been said, I support. Mr. Speaker, given that we are soon going out on recess, I want to wish all my colleagues a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. And as we are going out, lest any of us forget that as we sit in this house, Mr. Speaker, we hold positions of privilege. My appeal to my colleagues, let us not use the platforms that we have to sow seeds of discord amongst our people, but do things that bring us together as opposed to those that divide us. Mr. Speaker, particularly for the women, as has been mentioned, there were very, very few women in this parliament, and now, because of those women who came before us, we have at least a good number, 47 in addition to the 23. And it will be most unfortunate that we do not leave those doors open for those who will come after us by what, or rather the actions that out there definitely appear as those that are dividing the Kenyan people as opposed to putting us together. Once again, Merry Christmas to everybody, and may you have a prosperous New Year. Thank you very much. Okay.
Spoken straight to the Speaker's heart, as it were. What is out of order, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo?
Mr. Speaker, I need to get guidance from you. Mr. Speaker, I thought we are going on recess on Thursday, but members are busy wishing us Merry Christmas today. Are they intending not to come to the house tomorrow or the day after? So that I know, and so that I can also give my Merry Christmas wishes today, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Millie Odhiambo, you will have noticed that you have a way that you always get an opportunity to speak when you are in this house. A lot of the other members don't get that opportunity. So they are just being keen that in the event that they don't get an opportunity tomorrow or the day after, then they will have wished their constituents and their colleagues a Merry Christmas. I think they are in order. The Honorable Kabinga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm just wondering, given that we are just about to go on recess, and knowing that we have a lot of business ahead of us, I would like to stand on standing order number 95 and call on the mover to reply.
The Honorable Kabinga, you are actually the very last person who was going to speak before I called on the mover to reply. I will therefore call upon the Honorable George Murugara to reply.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me thank everybody because we have had a very lively debate and contributions. Parliament reaffirming its stand in the legislative process of this country. And this is exactly what we should be doing from time to time, and also ensure that nobody out there tries to usurp the role of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply.
Job well done. Honorable members, I'll direct that the next necessary steps on this particular order of business to be undertaken when it will be set down on the order paper again. I therefore direct we move to the next order of business on the order paper.
Order number 18, the T bill, Senate Bill number 36 of 2018, second reading.
I see no chair. the Honorable Millie Odhiambo. I direct that that business is deferred, and we move on to the next order of business.
Order
And,
number 19.
obviously, the men must pull up their socks. The Honorable Millie is right in this instance. The next order of business, please.
Order number 19, motion, report on the implementation status of the resolution of the House on conditional approval of a nominee for appointment as an ambassador.
This one, I'm confident that the chair is there. My senior, the Honorable Member for
Honorable
Narok North.
Speaker.
Proceed.
Yes, Honorable. I would like to first of all let the House know that this is a very deep motion. On the face of it, somebody will think it's a very light motion. Because of that, Honorable Speaker, it's very important that we realize that this debate is beyond Kenya. It's actually dealing with people of different nationalities. Honorable Speaker, this debate has actually been around. It has polarized the country. Honorable Speaker, in arriving at the decision at the end of the day, in this motion, this House will decide the rule of law and displace in the Constitution of Kenya. I'm not moving as yet. So it's very important that when this motion is moved, we have enough people to contribute so that the analysis of what this House says will determine whether this House retains its authority and retains its position in the constitutional dispensation of this country. And I have actually consulted the leadership of the House, and we are in agreement that this motion be stood down to tomorrow.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
That's what we have agreed on. Because, Honorable Speaker, maybe for the purposes of the members, there are messages going around actually advising members to shoot this motion down. And I think it's a motion that will actually be debated on critically for us to at least reach a very reasoned and acceptable position. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. So I request that the motion be stood down.
The Honorable Millie Odhiambo, there's nothing out of order. The chair has requested that this particular motion be deferred. There'll be no debate on it. I direct that the business, that particular business is deferred until such time as the House Business Committee will put it on the order paper again. I therefore direct that we move to the next business.
Order number 20, motion, report on examination of the financial statements for the national government for the financial year 2016-2017.
The Honorable Wandai.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion number 20, that this House adopts the report of the Public Accounts Committee on its examination of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the financial year, for the national government for the financial year 2016-2017, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, November 27, 2019. Mr. Speaker, as I move this motion this evening on the floor of this House, I'm indeed extremely proud of the work that the Public Accounts Committee has been able to do in the last 2 years or so. Mr. Speaker, bearing in mind that the Public Accounts Committee was inaugurated on the 18th or thereabouts of December 2017. And from that time up to now, Mr. Speaker, that committee has been able to process reports covering now 3 financial years. That is 2014-2015, 2015-2016, and now 2017. The Speaker, that is a record, bearing in mind the amount of work that the committee has to go through in terms of examining this report, these reports of the Auditor General. The Speaker, it is worth pointing out that given the milestones we have covered so far as a committee, and also given the fact that as we speak, we have embarked on the examination of the report of the Auditor General for the financial year 2017-2018, which we are scheduled to complete, God willing, within the first half of the year 2020. It means, therefore, Mr. Speaker, that we have, as a committee, achieved the targets that we had set for ourselves of delivering an up-to-date scrutiny of and reporting on the audited accounts. Mr. Speaker, I say this for the reason that the 2017-2018 report is actually the latest report that has been submitted to this House by the Office of the Auditor General. And this is important, Mr. Speaker, when you look at it from the point that Article 203, Sub-Article 3 of the Constitution, provides that equitable share of the revenue raised nationally be allocated to the national government and county governments on the basis of the most recent audited accounts of revenue as received. That means, Mr. Speaker, that my committee has been able to ensure, through its diligent work, to ensure that monies being taken to the counties shall no longer be based on historical figures, but shall be based on extremely realistic statistics. And this will definitely mean that the counties shall get enhanced revenue allocation, a factor that can only contribute to the strengthening of devolution, as it were. So, Speaker, on this account, I must say thank you to my committee members for the diligence they have exhibited throughout their work in the committee. So, Speaker, there will be no more excuse of people out there, sometimes out of ignorance, lamenting that Parliament is behind schedule in terms of examining the reports of the Auditor General. That is now a thing of the past. At least the Public Accounts Committee of the 12th Parliament has proved the naysayers wrong, that this Parliament can actually deliver where it matters. And that going forward, the officers in charge of the county governments, particularly the governors and their county executives, once they get these monies as a result of the work this Parliament has been able to do through the Public Accounts Committee, they shall put those monies to proper use. That they shall have no more excuse to say that development work is not going on in the counties as a result of inadequate allocation of funds. That this Parliament shall have ensured that they get the most appropriate amounts of money in terms of revenue share. The Speaker, as I say this, let me also point out a few issues that my committee has pointed out very, very, very clearly in this report. The Speaker, unfortunately, these are recurring issues. They are recurring issues in the sense that year in, year out, they emerge as we examine these reports, and we raise them in our reports, and yet they continue to recur. Mr. Speaker, one of the issues that we'll have to confront as a country is to be able to realign our budget to match our capacity at revenue collection. Mr. Speaker, you will agree with me that there's a serious mismatch between our supplementary estimates and what we can realistically collect as revenue as a country. So what we end up with is essentially a wish list in the name of a budget. We become too optimistic that somehow through some miracle, money shall be availed. And yet we know from history that we have not been able to do much in terms of revenue collection due to multiple factors. Mr. Speaker, the moment we shall align our budgeting to reflect the realistic revenues collectible, then we shall be able to be in a position to implement this budget properly. Because the moment we continue to be optimistic and, as expected, fail to collect the targeted revenues, we go back to the budget. First of all, we do what has now become a ritual, the so-called supplementary budgets. But beyond that, we continue to incur what has become a common balance in this country, the so-called pending bills. Pending bills in the sense that the exchequer cannot be released. And the reason why exchequer cannot be released is that there's no money in the National Treasury. And the reason why there's no money in the National Treasury is that KRA has been unable to collect the money. Because the economy is shrinking, Mr. Speaker. So we must be realistic going forward as a country, whether we want to continue being overly optimistic or to become realistic and cut our cloth according to our size, Mr. Speaker. That is very important.
The Honorable and I, without interrupting you.
Yes.
Supplementary and lack of fund that then supplementaries presuppose that you are adding. Proceed, the Honorable.
I wanted to listen to you carefully before I answer you. But
no, you're not answering. It's just.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Speaker, during supplementary estimates, they have both movements. There is a situation where we are increasing expenditures in other votes, whilst decreasing in others. The bottom line is that eventually we are unable to absorb all the money that is budgeted for in the financial year. And the reason is that the money is not there in the first place. Mr. Speaker, if we got time, we could discuss that more and more. But the fact of the matter is that we need to rein in this tendency of trying to mislead the country that we have good money, yet we don't have it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issues I was talking about that keep on recurring is, first of all, the pending bills, which, as I've said, happens as a result of inadequate or delayed exchange releases. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, we have therefore the phenomenon of white elephants. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you go out in the countryside, you are confronted with very, very, very many projects that have either stalled or are progressing at a snail's pace. Mr. Speaker, this is not a demonstration of prudent use of public funds. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, projects, once they are conceived and there is adequate budgetary provision, they need to be implemented within the specified timelines. That is when the country or the public can derive value for money. It's a no-brainer, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. The third issue, Mr. Speaker, that we continue to face during our work as a committee is the perennial lack of documentation. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that needs to be addressed more seriously going forward. There are cases where we have flagged this issue before, and in fact we have recommended for further action by other agencies. We don't seem to be seeing action being taken. Mr. Speaker, it has become commonplace that accounting officers would fail to avail the requisite documents, the necessary documentation for the expenditures they have incurred on behalf of the public, Mr. Speaker, wherever those documents are required by the officers of the Office of the Auditor General. 1 year or so down the road, Mr. Speaker, those documents resurface. And they resurface at our committee, Mr. Speaker, when they are of no use. Because whoever has got use for those documents is the Auditor General. And when he demands for them, they are not availed. They resurface when we summon the respective accounting officers before us. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that needs to be addressed very, very seriously. And I want to challenge the appointing authority, in this case, Mr. President, that in cases where we have raised this matter in our reports, and we have singled out specific officers who have continued to fail or refuse to produce these documents for audit purposes, that, Mr. President, you will take the necessary action and, if possible, send them home. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that, of course, is recurrent is the matter of accounting officers continuing to violate the laws governing procurement. Mr. Speaker, the laws governing procurement is very clear, very, very clear, very, very clear as to when you can use direct procurement method, when you can go for open tendering process, Mr. Speaker, okay? Mr. Speaker, what we have seen is a situation where accounting officers conveniently choose when to go direct procurement, when to go restrictive tendering process, and when to opt for open tendering process. And this is done so conveniently so that in the final analysis, the public fails to derive the value for money that they are entitled to. Mr. Speaker, if you look at this report of ours, which is more than 900 pages, you will see a pattern. Those agencies or state departments or ministries that are involved in more development projects that entail a lot of procurement have got more serious audit queries. Whereas those ones that don't engage so much in capital projects, the audit queries diminish. That goes to tell you, Mr. Speaker, that this is something that happens as a result of people's decision, people's conscious decision to break the laws so that they can benefit or benefit others unfairly, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have raised some more specific issues in this report. One of them, very, very quickly, before I forget, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of a special scholarship program in the Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, there is a strange scholarship program in the Ministry of Education which is neither backed by any law, any regulation, or any form of policy. A scholarship program that benefits children of the so-called prominent persons who have died. Mr. Speaker, this is a country that is governed by law. This country is governed on the basis of the rule of law. And even if the idea was noble, even if there was a justification to pay school fees for children of prominent Kenyans, whatever prominent means, it should have been on the basis of a policy which is developed, or on the basis of some law or some regulation, Mr. Speaker. As we speak, this so-called scholarship is being abused, Mr. Speaker. It's being abused. And in fact, when the accounting officer for the Ministry of Education came before us, we got the impression that this scholarship is not even being driven from the ministry itself, that there are external forces driving it. Mr. Speaker, we have therefore gone ahead to direct as a committee, if this House agrees with us, that that scholarship program be suspended with immediate effect until such a time that the executive shall develop a policy paper and requisite laws or guidelines to govern it, Mr. Speaker. The only way we shall be able to safeguard public funds, Mr. Speaker. There is no parameter to determine whether so and so is permanent and the other one is permanent. It's basically left the whims of a few people who wake up every other day and decide, let's pay school fees for so and so's child. And this school fees is being paid in the most outrageous way, Mr. Speaker. You find these children are in the EV level schools. When they go abroad, they go to the most expensive schools. When they're in Kenya, they go to those schools that are offering international courses or programs. And yet, children of Kenyans are struggling to go to public schools, Mr. Speaker. Children of taxpayers are struggling to get education, Mr. Speaker. We cannot downplay the contribution some of these Kenyans have made to this country. But there must be a guideline. We must for sure say, who is it that qualifies? Are they freedom fighters? Are they cabinet secretaries? Are they members of parliament? Who are these prominent persons? And who defines them? Mr. Speaker. So my committee has recommended an immediate suspension of that scholarship program. And if this House adopts this report, whoever shall attempt to implement that scholarship program, we shall be, of course, doing so against the directive of this House, and with, of course, the obvious consequences. Mr. Speaker, there is the issue of the maize importation done by the Ministry of Agriculture. This was in the year 2016-2017. Mr. Speaker, the country spent a whopping 11 billion shillings for a purported maize importation program. Mr. Speaker, when we summoned the accounting officer in the Ministry of Agriculture, my committee was shocked that up to date, 2.5 years down the line, the ministry is unable to produce documents to show that actually the maize was imported, and that this maize actually came into the country, and that this maize was actually paid for. We have been struggling to find out who are these fellas who brought the maize. There's too much concentration here. I don't know. Mr. Speaker,
the member for the Vice Chair of Education.
Thank you. Yes. Mr. Speaker, I'm raising serious issues on maize, and the members here from Western Kenya should be more attentive, because it affects them very, very seriously.
Yes, the members from the maize growing area.
Members from
Lugari
and Vihiga.
And Sabatia.
Yes, and Bungoma.
And the member from Kakamega.
Yes.
Where sugar is grown. I think this is interesting to you.
Mr. Speaker,
the Honorable Wandai.
Yes.
Before you go on, you seem to have talked about some special scholarship scheme,
yes,
which is not grounded in law.
Yes.
and which does not seem to have a budget line
Yes.
that was passed by this House.
Yes.
I hope in your recommendations you have identified the officers who are signing on the dotted line of those checks.
Yes.
So that they can be held accountable for what has been disbursed outside the budget lines of this House. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, it goes without say. My committee has been very meticulous in identifying these officers who have been able to use public funds in a most imprudent manner. Mr. Speaker, the country spent a whopping 11 billion shillings in the financial year 2016-2017 on purported maize imports. Mr. Speaker, when we tried to dig deeper into this matter, we were shocked. Firstly, we were being told that this maize was actually imported by people who turned out to be actually the millers. The millers who are doing milling business in this country imported maize, and the government bought from them. And after buying the maize from them, the government sold the maize back to them. It's a circus, Mr. Speaker. And they made a kill. And this maize, Mr. Speaker, we were being told that it was lying somewhere on the high seas. And when the decision was made by some ad hoc committee, I don't know composed of who, the maize came in all of a sudden. We have been seeking to talk to the people who handled the maize. We haven't been successful to date. My committee has recommended, because the matter is recurring in the 2017-18 financial year audit report, my committee has recommending to reopen the matter and to dig deeper into this matter and unravel the faces, to unmask the faces of the real persons who are behind this fraud. And it is something you can imagine, it sounds like a thriller, like fiction. That as we speak, the accounting officer, together with his officers in the Ministry of Agriculture, cannot produce a document to show that this is the payment voucher we used to pay so and so for this amount of maize that they imported. And they want us to believe that those documents disappeared somehow from the ministry, Mr. Speaker. It's a matter we are not yet recommending for any investigation by the DCI or whoever. It's a matter we are still seized of. Because we know what will happen. When we recommend the DCI ESCC to take over, they shall be doing it behind in the back rooms. We want to deal with these fellas in the full glare of the media and the public, so that they come before us. We want to insist that each and every miller who purportedly brought maize and sold to the government, and again bought back from the government, appears before us and tells us how the maize got to be on the high seas when the country was in need of maize, was having a maize shortage, and then all of a sudden it got itself into the country. Mr. Speaker, unless we use this as an example, this country, this dragon called impunity shall never be managed. And that's just a tip of the iceberg, we can tell you, from where we sit as a committee. So this wanton theft of public funds has continued to happen because the persons who are perpetrating it know that ultimately nothing will ever happen to them, going by the past record. We keep on dealing with the small fish, yet the barons remain untouchable. Mr. Speaker, if there is something called cartel, then it is alive and kicking in the Ministry of Agriculture. And it is incumbent upon this House to take a decisive action and dismantle these cartels. If you don't do so, history shall judge us very harshly as a House. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude. There is the issue of the properties owned by Kenya in foreign missions. Mr. Speaker, my committee has had occasion to visit a few of these missions abroad. You find that in cases where the country owns certain properties which it bought many years ago. Those properties have been left to degenerate, and most of them are in deplorable state as we speak. And yet we continue to spend money renting houses for ambassadors, renting houses for embassy staff. A case in point is the so-called Kenya House in New York, which is supposed to be the Kenyan ambassador's residence. A magnificent house standing on about 3/4 of an acre in upmarket suburb of New York City in the US, has been unoccupied for the last 8 years. Yet the country continues to pay rates, because in America rates are very expensive. The country continues to pay rates for that building, which continues to degenerate, and the country continues to pay rent for the Kenyan ambassador and other officers. It basically demonstrates a lack of focus, lack of sensitivity on the part of those who are tasked with the responsibility of managing our funds. You can go on and on and on. It's like Hollywood movie, Mr. Speaker. What kind of things we have witnessed. Mr. Speaker, the issue of public debt, Mr. Speaker. This afternoon, I was amused when I had one of our colleagues attempting to advocate for formation of an ad hoc committee to address this matter. He doesn't need to, because the facts are there. They speak for themselves. They speak for themselves. Public debt has risen in a manner that you cannot imagine within the last 5 years or so. The problem is that the justification we are being given for this rise in public debt is not holding any water, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you will read the report and you will be shocked at the statistics. Mr. Speaker, without really going into those details, the fact of the matter is that this country has, in the last few years, engaged in a borrowing spree. And I think this is a matter that needs to be addressed by this House, one way or the other. I understand that the Committee on Finance is dealing with it. But, Mr. Speaker, it is a matter that should not be taken lightly. We need to understand the rationale, what motivated the country to get into that kind of borrowing, and what has been the result of that borrowing. Because ultimately, it is the Kenyan taxpayer who will continue to shoulder this burden. The burden occasioned by decisions by some mandarins sitting in some dark rooms somewhere, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I want to say that the Public Accounts Committee of this House continues to discharge its mandate in a most objective manner. As I said earlier on when we got into office, that we shall continue to discharge our mandate and responsibility without fear or favor. And that we shall continue to point out these anomalies, these irregularities, these illegalities, openly and transparently. We need to rein in accounting officers. And here the appointing authority, that is the President, must help us as a Parliament. We have even recommended that we make amendments to the law and empower the Auditor General to be the one approving those officers who can be given the mandate of being accounting officers. And that if an accounting officer has got recurrent audit queries which are not resolved, then they cease being accounting officers. And that for them to come back as accounting officers, they need some approval by the Auditor General. It could be this House, depending on what kind of recommendation this House may make. But we need some sanctions. Because we have seen that left to the President or the appointing authorities, you will find these officers continuing to hold those positions with these serious audit queries hanging on their heads. It cannot be that one officer can continue to have issues remaining unresolved in their dockets, year in, year out, and yet they continue to sit in those offices spiritually. Okay? Because even if you recommend that they go home and the appointing authority doesn't send them home, they'll remain there. Not unless we move our impeachment motion in this house. So we must demonstrate that we are committed to fighting corruption. Not just by words, but through action, by deed. We want the president, wherever he is, to listen to us as a committee and take action. We have got 47 million Kenyans, half of whom are adults. Why should we stick with people, 20 or so people, who will continue to give the government bad name, as if they are some sacred cows? Okay? So my committee is going to continue to discharge its mandate ruthlessly and objectively. And we promise to start in the new year, because we have already asked the Speaker to give us the permission to come back fairly early. We want to start in the new year with the Ministry of Agriculture and deal expeditiously with the matter of the phantom maize import and recommend specific actions for this House to adopt. Now, Speaker, with those very many remarks, I beg to move, and I want to ask my Vice Chair, the Honorable Jessica Mbalu, to second. Thank you.
Well spoken, the Honorable Mandai. The Honorable Jessica Mbalu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do arise to support the Honorable Chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee in presentation of the report of the Public Accounts Committee to this House, Mr. Speaker, on the audited financial statements for 2016-2017 financial year, as presented to us, Mr. Speaker, and on the ministries, state departments, commissions, and independent officers for the year under review. Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank the chairman, Mr. Honorable Pio, who has spent sleepless nights, Mr. Speaker, putting us together with the Secretariat, Mr. Speaker, led by the Honorable, not Honorable, by the lead clerk, Omulanda, Oscar Namulanda. Mr. Speaker, we have presented the 2016-17 financial year report to the House, and the beneficiaries, as the chair did say, are the county governments, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as they will receive announced allocation, Mr. Speaker, since we are dealing with the most recent audited accounts, Mr. Speaker, again, the beneficiaries as the public, Mr. Speaker, because we are looking into the expenditure of the public funds, Mr. Speaker, prudent expenditure. Mr. Speaker, we have done recommendations that if the authorities and agencies follow, Mr. Speaker, the public funds will be safe and we'll see more development and, of course, the public benefiting, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me talk about a few issues because of the limitation of time. As the committee was able to separate critical issues from elephant issues, Mr. Speaker, and most of the elephant issues, Mr. Speaker, we were able to do recommendations, which we hope and pray that after work they will be adopted, Mr. Speaker. Amongst the critical issues, Mr. Speaker, are issues of the HIF-MIS. Year after year, Mr. Speaker, as we do present our audited accounts report to the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, the issue of HIF-MIS has been an elephant issue in our committee, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, issues of consolidated funds that could not be explained or could not be matched, Mr. Speaker, to the expenses, Mr. Speaker. This matter has been briefed to the Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Speaker, and the committee has done recommendation, Mup to including that the relevant state departments do reconciliations on a daily basis, Mr. Speaker, not waiting till the closure of the financial year or the last day of the financial year, and they start doing their reconciliations, which has really brought a lot of, Auditor General picking up on the issues, and especially on the issue of payments. Mr. Speaker, we find most of the ministries have not been able to keep fixed asset registers, Mr. Speaker, in the right form. And this is just an accounting document. And so sometimes we found out that it could have been, or it could be, maybe an overlook, Mr. Speaker. And so this committee has made recommendations that if the entities really follow, I think even the government units will be able to ensure that the accounting has been put as required by the relevant acts. Mr. Speaker, the issue of unsupported documentation, as the chair did put very well, it is a shame when an accounting officer appears before us as a committee and they are not able to produce documents. They are not able even to explain on the supporting documents as it was supposed to have been presented to the Auditor General on the time of audit. Mr. Speaker, we have had a lot of queries, we have had a lot of questions, including procurement documentation. Some accounting officers have not been able, Mr. Speaker, even to give us procurement minutes. And so that's why we say the devil is in the details. Mr. Speaker, this committee has gone ahead to make recommendations to ensure such accounting officers are reprimanded or the right action is taken to ensure that the accounting procedures or the public funds are safe and prudently used, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, some accounting officers are not able to explain to us how they arrived at some procurement process method. One would not be able to explain direct procurement, national open tenders, issues of specialized procurement, and so such have been able to be picked by the members of the committee and the relevant recommendations, which I do plead that this government, the agencies, pick up to ensure that such are put together. Mr. Speaker, the issue of outstanding interest. I must state and present to this House that in the closure of 2016-2017 financial year, you imagine the amount that has not been surrendered or unaccounted for in terms of interest, Mr. Speaker, was to the tune of 518,096,643 shillings, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we've made the recommendations also on this, and we've also stated the ministries of the government entities that have been affected so that they can be picked one by one and not even their amounts of money that have not been collected in terms of the interest. Mr. Speaker, this Parliament, we give a lot of money to the ministries of the government agencies, Mr. Speaker. And so such state departments, we recommend that they should be able to account for public funds in the right way, in the right manner, and being able to report, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of pending bills. I know we have had issues of contractors working and not being paid. We've been able to establish, and I must report to this House, that at the closure of the year 30th June 2017, as we looked at the 2016-2017 financial year, that amount Kenya shillings, amount to Kenya shillings to 16 billion, 712 million, 379,101 have not been paid. We've been able to establish the issues, including the exchequer issues, variations of estimate costs on projects, Mr. Speaker, and we have been able to give the way forward in terms of recommendation, Mr. Speaker. Because of limitation of time, Mr. Speaker, as I'm just seconding, the committee has done several recommendations. In fact, the recommendations that he followed, even as we look at the expenditure, Mr. Speaker, we will save this country a lot of money. Number two, we'll be able to implement the projects that are supposed to be implemented to the benefit of the common mwananchi, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, some of the recommendations we have done, and I really think that they can really work for this country, is that, number one, the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury, and Planning should, within 3 months of adoption of this report, Mr. Speaker, issue a written reprimand to all accounting officers who failed to manage interest by ensuring that the outstanding interest due were surrendered in time. And of course, in line with the provisions of the PFM Act 2012 and Regulation 93 of the PFM Act, that is National Government Regulations 2015. Mr. Speaker, again, we have also recommended that the Cabinet Secretary should, within 3 months of adoption of this report, Mr. Speaker, and these recommendations and their reports, draft and submit to the National Assembly, which is this House, Mr. Speaker, amendments to Section 67 of the PFM Act by introducing a new subsection after subsection 2 to provide for annual tabling for approval of all the names of persons designated as accounting officers for the respective entities, together with the annual appropriation bill. Any accounting officer whose entity received a qualified audit opinion from the Auditor General should not be eligible for designation as accounting officer unless cleared through writing by the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, as a committee, we thought these measures and recommendations.
The Honorable Jessica Mbalu, you will have 2 minutes. You are performing a very important role. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your 2 minutes. As I said, I have limitation of time because I'm just seconding. Mr. Speaker, we also recommend the Auditor General should, within 3 months of the adoption of this report, undertake a special audit on the Treasury bonds and bills records for the period 2012-2013 to 2018-2019 for financial years. The report should be tabled to the National Assembly, which is this House, within 6 months of adoption, and I'm sure the members will be able to look into it. Mr. Speaker, in general, we have been able to make several recommendations, as Chair did say, and the members will contribute, and as it is indicated in the report, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the public funds are spent prudently, Mr. Speaker, and those accounting officers, including the powers that will be given by our own Constitution, 226, Mr. Speaker, to the effect that any officer who sits in any government office can be summoned either in office or out of office and can be put to answer some of the questions, either in terms of imprudent expenditure of funds, and for this matter, no one will be able to run away with the public funds. Mr. Speaker, for that matter, allow me also thank the Office of the Clerk, the Office of Speaker, for giving us extra time as a committee to ensure that we are able to work extra hours and present the audited accounts report to this National Assembly to benefit the national governments in terms of allocation of funds, and also to benefit the public in terms of ensuring their money is spent prudently and they receive what is theirs. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. And I second.
Honorable members, allow me then to propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Public Accounts Committee on its examination of the report of the Auditor General of the financial statement for the national government for the financial year 2016-2017, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, November 27th, 2019. Honorable members, this is one of the most important roles that this House undertakes, and this goes to the core of oversight. And if you listened, honorable members, to the report of the Honorable Wandai, I hope that this is going to generate very robust debate from the floor. Honorable members, I only see one member who is interested in speaking, and this is surprising. But nevertheless, I will give the first opportunity to that member, the Honorable Angate Savula, member for Lugari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also contribute on this important report from the Public Accounts Committee. First of all, I'll thank the chairman, the vice chair, and members of the committee for having done a wonderful job. Actually, you pushed the image of this House to another level in terms of handling effects. Having handled the accounts for the year 2016-2017, and your focus on 2017-2018 financial year, this is a good job, and I say congratulations. Mr. Speaker, the report is very comprehensive. The report has touched on every sector. Mr. Speaker, the only issue you learn to raise is the issue concerning the public debt. Mr. Speaker, we are informed that the Kenya government is supposed to pay the SGR by January this year, Kenya shillings 25 billion. This money is supposed to be transferred to an escrow account within 29 days before the debt, before the debt they are supposed to submit the money to the Chinese investor. Mr. Speaker, it is not the responsibility of the President of the Republic of Kenya to manage the public debt. It is the responsibility of the experts the President has employed, starting from the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Finance, the Principal Secretary in charge of Finance, and the line officers to manage the debt. If we stand here every time complaining the President Uhuru's government has done this, it is them to advise the President. As a member of Parliament for Lugari, I don't advise the CDF Lugari. The CDF Lugari drafts the proposal, project proposal. They bring to me a complete proposal for approval. They are the ones on the ground to tell me what is happening on the ground. We are misleading the public by saying that, oh, President Kibaki has, President Uhuru has allowed the public debt to balloon. It's not his responsibility. He's providing political leadership. The experts must do their work. If they can't do their work, let them go home. We have Akinanda here who are experienced. Look at the report, what they have done. A wonderful document. Why can't it be the CS Finance? We have Madam there, Madam Speaker, who has done a wonderful job. Why can't these people be absorbed in the system to deliver? Instead of having some moribund elders at Treasury there doing zero work, being paid, and sabotaging the work of the government. Mr. Speaker, on the same note, my party leader advised the experts at Treasury, if you want to effectively manage public debt, create what we call Public Debt Management Authority. Why should you have a parastatal called Kenya's ISOL Board, a parastatal called National Employment Authority, a parastatal called Kenya's Urban Road Authority, when an important parastatal called Public Debt Management Authority is not in existence in this country? Then how are you going to manage your public resources? If you put it under a state department, or not a state department, just a department under the office of the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Finance, you are doing zero work. There is no efficiency there. We know how civil servants work. In a parastatal will have functions, how a board that will control, and a board will regulate, a CEO that will be reporting to the board, and a CEO will be accountable, and the authority will be accountable to the Parliament. So we know how to manage the debt. But if you don't have a public debt management authority, we leave it to the civil servants at Treasury. We just create a desk, this is a debt management desk. My friend, we are doing zero work. We are killing this country. And if we kill this country, we'll band together Right now, Mr. Speaker, there's no money circulation because we didn't manage our debt properly. Treasury has no money to pay the suppliers. The president has directed that let the suppliers be paid. Are they being paid? There's no money to pay the suppliers. The Auditor General has cleared several pending bills, as the committee has explained. But there's no money to pay the pending bills. And a stable economy depends on the government. Mr. Speaker, you cannot tell me as a businessman, you can operate under the private sector to grow an economy. A stable economy is grown by the government. The government is the biggest spender. So if the government, the biggest spender, is not paying suppliers, my friend, which economy is thriving? And this thing, we should not blame the leadership. Who is a politician? The experts are at Treasury. The experts are at Treasury. Let's have responsible people at the Treasury. And I'll also ask the President of the Republic of Kenya, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Treasury is a very important person. The Principal Secretary at the Treasury is in charge of appointing accounting officers of all other ministries. Let's have a substantive CS at the Treasury. Let's not have an acting CS. If we have a problem, how will he sort it out? He's just acting. He's merely acting. He has no total responsibility. Let's have a substantive CS at the Treasury. The CS also messed recently. How can Parliament appropriate money to Treasury, to Judiciary, then a CS just comes overnight to scale down the allocation without Parliament approval? That was very wrong and in bad light. We have what we call separation of power. In this government, we have the judiciary, executive, and the legislature. Each department must control its own budget independently, its resources independently, operate independently. No, the childish way of a CS waking up at night after differing with his wife to slash a budget of a judiciary. That is very wrong. If you want this country to go to the dogs, then slash the budget of judiciary, limit the operation of the judiciary, and for any nation to be stable, any country to be stable, you must have a body that looks into mechanism of resolving disputes that is stable. We must stabilize the judiciary by allocating the money. The CS must write an official apology to the National Assembly because he had no authority. It's only Parliament that has authority to slash down or increase the allocation to any government department. Where did he get the powers? And he said he went to school. Oh, these are the people who school in Dubai. Mr. Speaker, we have to increase the level of vetting of principal secretaries and cabinet secretaries so that we know this one is capable to this job. I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, the views that have been collected under BBI. If we adopt this report, we are going to make changes that will move Kenya forward. We'll have cabinet secretaries from here, cabinet ministers from here. Wandai, Minister for Finance. Washiali, Minister for Agriculture, to sort out Mumias Sugar Company. Because he's on the ground, he knows what is happening in Mumias Sugar Company. What dose can I give Mumias Sugar Company to resurrect this Mumias Sugar Company that is dying? To make sure that Mumias Sugar Company does not go to the mortuary. He has the prescription. Because he has been a member of Parliament of that area, he interacts with the farmer, he knows the origin of the problem of Mumias Sugar Company. Don't tell me, Mwangi Kiunjuri, somebody who understands the coffee sector only, is aware of the problem bedeviling Mumias Sugar Company. Mr. Speaker, we have always said here in Parliament that the economy of Western Province is being killed. Pan paper factory was sent under receivership. Mumias Sugar Company now under receivership. The following year, you'll hear Zoya Sugar Company is under receivership. Based on this report, the content of this report. Mr. Speaker, finally, the issue of some individuals in this country roaming around the country and launching projects without a budget line. We need to operate like CDF. You can only launch as an MP a classroom when the CDF money is on that account. And that is what the Public Procurement and Disposal Act says. But you find some individuals, because they want political mileage, They are today in Lugari constituency launching Lugari TTI. Then 5 years later, Lugari TTI is not there. Savuja is remaining with a problem, utilize CDF money to construct TTI. We are asking this committee, we deal with all stalled projects and the government should give a priority to that. Because of time, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support this report. Thank you.
The Honorable Savula, the Honorable TJ Kajwang is wondering what role you would have for him in that proposed government where you have the Honorable Asheli and Wandai as cabinet secretaries. The Honorable Lekenta.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'd like to add my voice in support of this report and ask the House to adopt it. Honorable Speaker, when you hear or when you read about how our country is run, you really get worried. These people in government are squandering the future of our children. They are destroying the livelihoods of our farmers. In essence, they have failed the country. Honorable Speaker, when you have a government create a special fund for prominent people, whether diseased or not, then you start to wonder whether this country is only a country for the rich. The poor have no chance. And when you deny people...
The Honorable Lekenta,
yes, sir.
We've been very unfair to you today, but such are the rules that we operate under.
Yes.
Time has caught up with us.
I'll continue.
I hope you will avail yourself when this debate continues, so that you'll have a balance of 9 minutes. I'm sure you have very interesting things to say.
You, okay.
Honorable members. The time being 7 p.m., this House stands adjourned till Wednesday, 4th December 2019 at 9:30 a.m.